Just waiting for the feed to come in on my phone.
Yep, I see it.
There we are. Alrighty then, it works. That was the one thing I was worried about. So yeah, Walt's got, I guess, for the time being. Live! Yeah, we are live, and we'll talk about what we're going to be talking about here in just a few minutes. Kind of want to test the waters a little bit, because this is the first time ever the Shadow Cult podcast is live, and it's going to be live from here on out, thanks to...
It can happen. My wife could interrupt the podcast, come downstairs and tell me something,
right.
You know.
Yeah, that's what's going to make it even more fun. So it's going to be awesome. And then the other...
right now to do that.
Yeah. And then the other beautiful thing is that we'll get to hear from you guys, the audience watching right now, as we got 3 viewers currently. Hopefully more comes in. And we can answer questions that you may have about the show we're talking about or anything wrestling related. We'll gladly answer.
And what I'm cooking right now?
Yep.
Walt cooking.
And in fact, the folks downstairs are cooking some steaks and pork. So I'm going to have a nice dinner after this.
Steaks and pork.
Yep. And already we got a comment from Sean Henderson saying, and Scott, the best looking one out of these 3 of you. Hey, I'm no slouch. Come on. I'm a sexual fat ass. What can I tell you?
A mess.
And that's with a PH.
That's with a PH. That's right.
Or no, I'm stealing my buddy King Fat's shtick now, and he's probably going to want to come and hit me in the head with his scepter.
He's a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
Well, they don't call Scott the other handsome Doc Hendricks for nothing. So
that's right.
Hey,
Doc Hendricks, you're coming at you, number 1.
I would have had the beard growing still, but I cannot shave worth a damn. So, because I keep trying to trim it to make it match, and I always screw up, so I end up shaving it off. I have got to find a better way to shave so that way I can keep a beard growing.
Now, important to realize, too, that Levi's the only one who can see comments, okay? Because we're all in his Discord, so if you ask a question to me and Walter, we're not going to see it. We'll have to wait for Levi to tell us. So
yeah, if your question is missed and neglected, it's on Levi.
Yeah, but luckily I have. I'll show you guys how it all works. Yeah, see this handsome motherfucker.
Behind the scenes stuff.
Behind the scenes, we got 2 monitors.
Setup.
There's us.
I can see myself.
And there's OBS with the YouTube chat.
I did a few books so I can sit on the book so they can see my face.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nice glimpse of my fancy new keyboard and mouse.
Oh, very nice.
Check it out.
That came with this, too.
All colored.
And if I were to get a backup keyboard, I can get one off of iBuyPower for pretty much free, because at the 21st of July, I get my rewards points. 36,000 reward points, because when I bought that thing, they were doing triple points, and every 1,000 points is $1 off a purchase, so $36 off. I could essentially get a keyboard for free.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So if I were to want to get a backup keyboard, I'll get one off that. But I do like this mouse. It's got the little buttons that go back or go forward on anything you're doing. So it's going to be a lot of fun to mess with whenever we go on Minecraft eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Sean also asked, how long have we had the podcast? This is our 8th episode. We started it back in April, I believe. At first couple episodes we did every 2 weeks, and then after, I believe, episode 2, we started going weekly, because we're thinking about possibly moving this to a podcast network that Scott and Walt do stuff with, so we can get more viewers and such and listeners, because we might also have an audio version of this for that network possibly, but still a work in progress. Nothing's truly set in stone yet. We're just testing the waters, essentially.
Time will tell with that. So
time passages.
Yep.
I don't want to get a copyright.
That's true. La 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 la.
So far, as I'm looking on the phone, I got the phone on backup just to check the quality, and it looks fantastic. So, it's so cool to finally do a full-fledged Discord stream. without any lag problems. So I
Or
know
like
the Horseman
stuff.
Yeah, it looked more legit. This with our cameras and the pay-per-view logo right next to me, right here. So it looks. Yes, it is pretty much a wrestling podcast where we talk about old shows. Eventually, we're gonna do like wrestler career retrospectives of a certain time or their whole careers. Other kinds of videos like that, or reminiscing of certain storylines, angles. Perhaps maybe at some point we might expand to do like episodes of Raw, Nitro, ECW, TNA, what have you. Those could probably be saved for like months where we're not doing themed reviews during the whole month like we've been doing all month here in June, where we did King of the Ring and Great American Bash.
But if you have an idea of a pay-per-view out there that you'd like to see us review, let us know in the comments or put it on the channel somehow. Let us know.
And we'll put it on our queue, so to speak.
Yeah. Because we have a bunch lined up, but we'll gladly move one or two out of the way so we can accommodate y'all out there.
Yep. So. And I also have a little bit of an announcement before we get into the reason why we're on. Good buddy of mine, We Are Pro Wrestling, who has become a big fan of this podcast and has followed Scott and Walt on Twitter now. Yes, and he's helped plug us, and he's offered to be a guest on an episode at some point in August for SummerSlam month. And the SummerSlam we're thinking of covering along with him, SummerSlam 1993.
Yes. Bad one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Was 93 was Taker versus Taker?
No, that was 94.
93 was Taker Gonzalez in the Rest in Peace match. Mm-hmm. Luger, Yokozuna.
Was this Bret Owen in the cage?
No, that was 94.
All right, I'm getting old. Lex Yokozuna. Okay, all right, I'm getting old, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I don't remember.
Eddie DiBiase's final match in WWE was on that pay-per-view, though.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Whole bunch of stuff. But we'll cross that road when we cross it. This week's episode, it's the final themed review until August. Because July, we're going to be going all over the place talking a pay-per-view, wrestlers, retrospective, what have you. We're still working out what we're doing for July. I know we had some stuff planned, but now it just slipped my mind. I got to write it all out. Down. You got it all written? Okay, thank you. I'll have to. So after this, you'll have to remind me, and I'll have to write them down too. Mm-hmm. All right. So today we are reviewing this final themed review we're doing until SummerSlam, and that is WCW Great American Bash 1990. Kind of fitting how 2 weeks ago we did 89. Now we're doing the year after with 90. So
yes. A bit has changed as well.
A lot has changed, and we will talk about that in just a moment. But real quick, another comment from Sean Henderson. Because of COVID, I lost track. Is WWE live again? For the most part, not so much. It's it's like taped and live right now.
Yeah.
They're still trying to get all this stuff sorted out so that hopefully, and the key word is hopefully, by SummerSlam, we can get some fans back into the crowds, especially for SummerSlam since that's Hall of Fame weekend this year and all that. So hopefully here in about 6-7 weeks, we'll see some change for WWE at least. I know AEW, they're trying to make strides to get fans back, and it's just gradual, which I do give them credit for. So we'll just it's all about patience. Patience is virtue after all. So anyways, Bash 90. Scott, where is WCW at in 1990 after we covered Bash 89?
It's a far cry from where it was last week when we reviewed Great American Bash 1989. At this point in the company's timeline, Ric Flair is no longer the booker of the company. He stepped down in February of 1990. He had done everything he could to improve the product, and he did it. Ratings were the highest they'd ever been on the Saturday night show and Sunday night main event. Clash of Champions ratings were up were up, pay-per-view buys were up. Everything that you could measure success by was up, and Jim Herd just would not leave well enough alone, constantly up Flair's ass, screwing stuff up. So Flair had enough, and in February he sent him a letter and says, I'm stepping down as booker. I tried to do the best I could, but you won't let me do it, so I'm not quitting. I'm not leaving the company, but I am no longer going to be a part of the booking committee, which a committee took over after Flair stepped down. And this time frame is also Sting had his big knee injury in February of 1990 at the Clash of Champions Texas Shootout. It's up for debate when it actually happens, I think, because some people say when he ran at the cage at the end of the show, he jammed his knee into the cage. I've heard people say that Doug Dillinger pulled Sting off the cage, and when he came down too heavy on the leg, and that snapped his knee. Regardless of how it happened, Sting screws up his knee at the Clash of Champions.
Yep. And you can see that. I mean, you can tell right there. He's not in good shape. Something very, very much wrong. He's hobbling. He's hopping around. He's trying his best to cover it up.
And what the weird thing about that is, I remember an expose that Connie Chung did about pro wrestling, and they were recording the expose at that Clash of Champions. So they caught the entire incident of Sting getting injured and all that stuff while they were doing that expose. It was weird timing how it happened. And they were like interviewing Luger and the Road Warriors and Sting and all that stuff. And, oh my God, wrestling's fake and all that other BS like we didn't know already. And do we care? No, because it's not fake. It's predetermined. Trust me, me and Walt can tell you that.
Yep.
So anyway, Sting injured. He was going to be the next champion. They had a babyface turn with Lex Luger instead for Capital Combat.
Run at that point.
Yes.
Yeah,
and,
he was on fire. He was having probably the best heel run of his career, and they had to switch it around because of the injury.
Yep.
Killed all
no Oh yeah, they had no one else they could go to. They had to use Luger, so that's why he had Luger and Flair, and then RoboCop, and all that jazz. So.
According to Jim Cornette, they were leaning towards. They wanted to push Muta. They wanted to put Muta in that spot, but Gary Hart kind of
he got bossed out.
Yeah.
Because Gary knew he was going to lose a lot of money if they did that, so he wasn't going to go with it. So, I love Uncle Gary, but
and made Muta a huge offer, and the rest is history. So Muta was gone by this point.
Yeah, best business move for Muta that they could do. So, but Sting is back at this point. And another interesting point in timeline: we are a month away from the debut of
the Black Scorpion. Sting.
Where's that music?
I'll find you. I'll get you, Sting.
Flash Gordon, Ming the Merciless thing.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
Probably the most intriguing angle of WCW at that time frame, and it was interesting because nobody really knew what to do with it. It was Ole Anderson's voice, Ric Flair's idea apparently, and it was kind of like they had a murder mystery but no killer.
Yep.
Yeah, and what's funny, I brought up We Are Pro Wrestling earlier. He did a From the Vault episode all about this, and from what I gathered from him, now take this as you would, but he thought that apparently this was a joke idea on Ole Anderson's part because he was in booking meetings with Jim Herd saying, well, Jim's rejected so many of my ideas, I'll just come up with something stupid and he'll reject it too. How about Sting versus the Black Scorpion? Jim Herd, I like that. Let's do it. And so Ole just basically had to go along with it and just like, oh God, what am I going to do?
There's definitely
Cornette can clarify that on his podcast because he's brought that up several times where they would just bring up the dumbest idea and Herd would like it. Cornette was like, I was only kidding.
Yep.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so this whole thing, we could talk more on it if we were to ever do a Black Scorpion episode, which probably not happen because it would just be. It wasn't that long. It's only like a 4-month period. 4 or 5 months at most.
And it kind of levied off a little bit here and there so that they could put like another mini program and try to intersperse that with it. But
I will say the way that they were playing it up, looking back at it, they were trying to make it think like Ultimate Warrior was coming over. But
there was
no chance they were going to get him because he was WWF champion. So yeah, what the hell are you going to do?
Initially, it was going to be Al Perez, and it was Al Perez.
Who looks like the father of Seth Rollins.
Yes. And eventually Al Perez makes the dumb statement that he was going to shoot pin Ric Flair during a world title match. And he's like, oh, they'll have no choice to put the title on me then. Bad move. He got fired. And then it had to revert back to Flair.
Yeah.
So, when he came down to that frickin' spaceship thing, whatever.
Oh, God.
Goofy garbage. So,
yeah.
So yeah, whereas Great American Bash was on the cusp of hitting a big stride in 1989, at this point the stride is pretty much done, and they're just grasping at straws, trying to get back to the momentum they had before Sting got injured.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a long. This is a blow-off. Well, it was long because Sting got hurt. Yeah, this is the blow-off to Sting and Flair, which was drawn out. My God, 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of that injury. He got hurt in February. This is July. So.
Right. And there was the argument that they wanted Flair to put the world title on Luger. Flair refused because he promised it to Sting. Whether that's true or not at the time, yeah.
In hindsight, you could say yes.
Considering what a year later from this, I would not be surprised if that was the original concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because even more crazier shit happened in 1991 in WCW than it did in 1990. It gets wilder.
And weirder and crazier. And
weirder, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
do you want to give your number stats first, and I'll give my goofy stats?
Yes. So, Great American Bash 1990 on July 7th, 1990, from the same arena that they've had the Bash since 88, the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, when I was looking up the attendance numbers, there were two different numbers. Wikipedia said 14,000. However, OSWReview.com says 10,000. And then when I went further into it, it was basically consensus. It was closer to 10,000. So we're going to stick with that. So they had an attendance of 10,000, not 8,900 of them paid. Live gate, $153,000. Pay-per-view buys, 235,000. Compared to Bash 89, when we talked about that show, attendance for Bash 90 was down from 89. Live gate, or as attendance in 89, was 12,500, a sellout in the same building. Live gate was down, as it was $188,000 in 89. But pay-per-view buys were up, as it was only $180,000 in 89 compared to $235,000 for 90. Now, compared to the rest of the pay-per-views in 1990, Great American Bash was the highest attended, highest live gate, and the most bought pay-per-view in WCW in 1990. So business-wise, apart from attendance and live gate being lower than 89, but highest of the year, and the pay-per-view buys, this show did amazing business for 1990 standards, and, and with the build-up with Sting and all this and everything else on the show, you can kind of get why this was perhaps the most important pay-per-view WCW history up to that point. Mm-hmm. So, those are your numbers. And now, Scott, time for your Fu Manchu.
Yes. If anybody's familiar with Joe Bob Briggs and the drive-in show that he does on Shudder, and for years and years, he always does these little statistics before he reviews a movie. He tells you what you can have in store for in the movie, and that's what I'm doing here. So, for Great American Bash 1990, New Revolution, we have on the show so many chops. So many chops. We have several Steiner lines. We have Mullet Mania, because it's 1990. We have 5 backslides, 4 press slams, 3 belly-to-belly suplexes, 2 bulldogs, 2 DDTs, 1 abdominal stretch, 1 pile driver, 1 Alabama jam, 1 double arm suplex, 1 assisted missile drop kick, 1 rocket launcher, 1 hell of a karate fight. We'll get into that later on. 1 kick-ass, awesome, incredible helmet. We'll get to that later on. We have 1 big splash, 1 double underhook power bomb, 1 tilt-a-whirl slam, 1 Frankensteiner, 1 walking the top rope, 1 torture rack, 1 ref bump, 1 figure 4, 1 stinger splash, 1 scorpion deathlock, 2 future members of ECW's FBI. Can you name them? We will get to that later. 1 future loose cannon, 1 never was Nature Boy, 1 future tax man, 1 future Howard Stern favorite, 1 human chia pet, 1 world's strongest man, 1 former king, 1 future American badass, 1 guy we wish Elizabeth never hooked up with, 1 future advocate, 1 former Pizza Hut executive, and 1 fucking bullshit! And this time around, the move of the night, coming in at a whopping 7 times, the flying crossbody.
Wow.
Jeez.
You're right.
And on the show, we have Flying Foo, Syracuse Foo, Strong Foo, Classic NWA Foo, Darkside Foo, Rocky Mountain Foo, Detroit Foo, sorry Levi, Giant Foo, Package Foo, Playa Foo, and Red, White, and Blue Foo.
Oh man, that's a lot of foo.
A lot of foo.
That is a lot of foo for my taste. So now with the foo out of the way, now it's time to talk about the show at hand. So on this card we have a whopping 11 matches.
I had the old Turner Home Video VHS release of this. They cut about 4 or 5 of those matches out. Pretty much, I think the first. They start at the Midnight Express Southern Boys match, then go forward. That's how much they cut out.
Yeah, that's 4 matches cut out there. So
yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's get to those first 4 matches. So we kick things off with Nature Boy Buddy Landel versus Flying Brian Pillman. I remember I was watching this show this morning. I see this guy come out, Buddy Landel, and they call him the Nature Boy. It's like, what? I was so confused.
You have bookend Nature Boys on this show. Buddy Landel starts it and Flair ends it.
Here's the thing. Back in territory days, it was not uncommon for somebody to book, back when there was not extensive cable television, and network, which is not now in this case, in 1990 though, but it was in the early years before that. They would have somebody who would emulate a Ric Flair or emulate a Dusty Rhodes. And Buddy Landel happened to be, they emulated Buddy Landel. Where was it? I think it was Memphis is where he got his start.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, as Nature Boy Buddy Landel. And he started off regularly as Buddy Landel with dark hair and all of that. But then they brought the Nature Boy gimmick in. And they brought Buddy Landel to Jim Crockett Promotions under the guidance of J.J. Dillon.
Yep.
This is like 1985 or so. And they actually did do a Battle of the Nature Boys with him and Ric Flair.
Yep.
And the gimmick just stuck. I mean,
he might have been. I think he was on the first Starrcade too in '83.
He may have.
He was like an NWA Mid-Atlantic champion or some kind of territorial champion back then. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was the Nature Boy for that entire time, and Flair was okay with it. I mean, he was a good hand, Buddy Landel.
Yeah.
He was good work.
He was no Ric Flair. We know that.
No, absolutely.
No, he's not Ric Flair. That's why I said he was a good hand.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And with this match, I mean,
why is Pillman opening? He opened
Well, he opened the year before, so yeah.
But that was a year ago.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That was a reflection of Jim. I think Jim Herd did not like Brian Pillman. There was something going on.
As I mentioned earlier,
scouting and advocating.
Earlier on, I mentioned that Flair, when he was booking, had brought business way up. The 2 highest rated shows that Flair did was one night he worked Brian Pillman in a singles on Saturday night, and then Sunday him and Arn worked the Midnight Express.
Yeah,
and both shows' ratings were the highest they had been in years.
Yep,
and still Jim Herd would not leave well enough alone.
Oh, Jim Herd. But
Jim Herd enough.
Yep. So, I mean, this match, it was what it was. It was just there, essentially. Brian Pillman defeated Buddy Landel in 9 minutes, 29 seconds.
Mm-hmm. The same way he beat Cowboy Bill Irwin the year before.
Yeah, with the flying crossbody. Yep.
Right.
Moving on to the second match of the night, we have the Iron Sheik. I will talk about this in just a second. Versus Captain Mike Rotunda. Okay. Iron Sheik being in WCW is so weird to me. Like, I just looking at it and I see Iron Sheik on a WCW show. I'm like, that does not compute in my brain. None at all. Because when I see Iron Sheik, I think WWF guy.
Right.
Never would I thought he'd be a WCW guy, but for a short time he was. And
we're reigniting an old rivalry, mind you. It's 1985 all over again with the U.S. Express against Nikolai and the Sheik.
True. Yes, the tag title match from WrestleMania 1.
Yep.
I was thinking that
too. This wasn't a bad match. They actually had a wrestling match.
Yeah.
It wasn't amazing and spectacular, but they actually had a legit wrestling match. They made it a contest. There was no gimmickry or any silliness during that match.
No, Sheik still knew how to work the match. But I mean, Sheik was one of those guys they were given like $100,000 a year to, and eventually they would roll over his contract and not even know it. That's how much they paid attention back then. Yeah, and it was just like they wanted him to get upset and quit, so they bring him in to do jobs. He couldn't do jobs good enough.
No.
So he would just keep getting paid, man. It didn't matter.
You see, after Rotunda, he pays him with a backslide, mind you, a heavily backslide.
That's a backslide.
Sheik is done. Sheik looks at the camera and flexes. It was all in a day's run.
Nope.
He got his paycheck. He wasn't mad.
Nah.
But
this is also Captain Mike Rotunda after the Varsity Club run, by the way, too. So,
mind you, about a month or so after this, they would repackage him as Michael Wall Street, which was a precursor to IRS.
Yes. That's true.
That we would see about a year later in WWF.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, Mike Rotunda defeated the Iron Sheik in 6 minutes, 46 seconds. Match was what it was.
It's
there.
Kind of just there, similar to the opener.
Next
up, we get Dirty Dutch Mantell, good old Dirty Dutch, versus Doug Furnace. So we first talked about Doug Furnace back when we did Survivor Series 96.
Yep.
Yes.
So he was in WCW 6 years prior as a singles guy, and he
was bouncing between here and All Japan. You didn't see Doug a lot on here.
Yep.
Yeah. So this match,
Bad
not that
styles.
Yeah, it did not work. Plus, it doesn't help. Plus,
you can tell that Doug is nervous in this match because he's greater than goose shit, and Dutch is a veteran, so he knows how to work the kid and kind of get him over. And Dutch isn't stupid; he knows business. He's like, "All right, you want this kid over? I'm going to do everything I can to be a dick so he can get over. He's going to do all his power shit to me. I'm going to just run and hide and cheat my way through this whole thing." And that's what he does. So, I mean, the business of the match was to get Doug over. They did that. Wasn't the best execution, but you can name 10,000 different examples of that. So.
Exactly. And like I said, Doug was very touch and go during his very short time in WCW. Owen Hart was actually working WCW at the same time too, but Owen Hart was also working New Japan. So you would see Doug for a couple of weeks on Saturday night or at main event. Going up against George South or whoever, and then he would disappear and go back and do a tour in New Japan and so on, or All Japan for in Doug's case, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, very touch and go, just a very simple opening match, get Doug over, and that's it.
Yeah, and in the end, Doug Furnace defeated Dutch Mantell in 11 minutes, 18 seconds.
That was a long match.
If they had cut the match down to about 6 or 7, it might have been a little bit better, but
Dutch was all about working and just trying to tell a story and just try and get Doug over. So
yeah, that was really my main issue. The match went a little bit too long than it probably should have.
Doug Furnace has a great fucking drop kick. I will tell you.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the match. Was that amazing drop kick? That's for sure.
Yeah,
it was like a drop salt that Paul London would make famous years later.
Yep, that's one thing we talked about with Doug, though. I mean, just a good overall package. You know, very strong, very powerful guy, but also very agile. He could move. You know. He was good. I enjoyed watching Doug Furnace.
Oh yeah.
So now we move on to the fourth match of the night, a battle of two former NWA World Champions.
If this was 82, this would have been the main event.
Yes.
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah. Given about 8 years before, yeah, this could have been the main event, but it's fourth on the card, and the guys are older by this point. Nobody
Rich cares
and nobody cares about them anymore.
No.
Tommy Rich versus Harley Race.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's a rematch from April 27th, 1981, when Tommy Rich beat Harley Race for the NWA World title, and Tommy Rich held the title for a whopping 4 days. When he dropped back to Harley. So, it was a favorite of Jim Barnett because Jim Barnett was booking Atlanta. Tommy Rich was a huge fan favorite in Atlanta. He was the top babyface. So they're like, screw it, let's do this switch real quick. And they put the belt on Tommy, put it right back on Harley 4 days later. Tommy's not the shortest reign NWA World Champion, but he's one of the shortest reign. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yep.
And lots of change, lots has gone on in the years in between that. I mean, Harley this was at the last of Harley's career. He was running towards the end here.
Yeah.
He would show up mind you, he'd show up again a year later at the next Great American Bash in a managerial role.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's already had the run in WWF. He was king, had the feud with Duggan. He wrestled Hogan. He had all that run there, and it was time for him.
Prior to this, he went to the AWA, worked a quick program with Nabisco. Believe it or not, this was his last stop before he retired and called it a day. He had this match, and he worked several other matches afterwards and got injured and took time off. They allowed Harley to have time off, and then showed up and did the manager spot. Right. And he was there for a good few years. This match,
it was kind of like Harley trying to get all his shit in.
Yeah, essentially.
Harley Race doing a pile driver 3 minutes into the match.
Yep.
His finish? His
finish was a suplex back then.
Yeah.
But he was known to use the pile driver later on. So
yeah. He does the pile driver. Tommy Rich springs right back up and powers out. Yep. Which I found very weird and awkward.
$5 says that, like you said, when you got the home video release, this wasn't on there. So they probably think this is never going to be seen. It's never going to be seen on television. So fuck it. Let's just do everything.
All right.
Yeah.
But in the end, Harley Race defeated Tommy Rich in 6 minutes, 32 seconds. Now,
Tommy Rich doing a high cross body and Harley rolling over. Not even a handful of tights. Very clean fit.
Straight hook.
Yeah.
Yep.
But now, let's get to the real part of the show now.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, we're kicking off the real part of the show with a bang. Up next.
Go right to the...
Yep. Mm-hmm. Up next, NWA United States Tag Team Championship match. Champions the Midnight Express, Beautiful Bobby, and Sweet Stan with Jim Cornette versus the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys, Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers.
Pistols.
My God, this match.
Yeah.
Woo! I don't even know where to begin with this match. I mean, they were building up that Stan Lane, and I believe was it Armstrong who had the karate and kung fu.
Smothers.
It was Smothers
Tracy
with the
Smothers,
kung fu and the karate stuff, and we had that awesome little kung fu karate spot battle between the two. That was fucking awesome, where they just stiff kicked the shit out of each other.
The most over thing of the entire
This is not a karate match. This is wrestling.
Yes. Yep. Cornette put that over. Yep.
Cornette is losing it during this whole match. I think it's because he's just so happy that everything is just gelling together.
And mind you, this is when Cornette and the Midnights are miserable.
They
hate being there.
Yeah.
They're so sick and tired of Jim Herd and they're sick and tired of his BS, but they still go out and steal the show.
That was the reflection of this quality of the match. You know what? Cornette took the four of them aside and said, "Let's upstage these motherfuckers." That was
Yep.
That was Cornette's way of getting on her bad side, was upstaging the main events.
Yep. Because they're technically opening the show. All right, fine, top this, and you can't.
Yeah, this is middle of the show, mind you. This match is middle of the show, and they put on a classic tag team match. Well, arguably one of the top 10 greatest tag team matches in the history of the business.
Oh,
I would
so
say.
good, so good.
Yeah. Such a damn.
And the finish, my God, it's just a fucking shootout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just everything clicks, and they know how to work with each other, and Cornette doing his stuff, and Tracy Smothers, man, it's well known nowadays, but you did not mess with Tracy Smothers.
No, Tracy Smothers had a tough dude He wasn't. Not only was he a workhorse, he was a badass.
Yes, he was.
Tracy Smothers. Balls Mahoney was scared of Tracy Smothers.
If that tells you anything. Oh yeah, Tracy didn't back down for anybody. Bradshaw, Big Show, you name it, he would step up and fight.
Bears. The dude wrestled bears at the beginning of his career. And yet there were stories where he wasn't scared of anyone. He was ready to fight Bradshaw back when Bradshaw was I think he was the Hawk at that time.
Justin Bradshaw.
Yeah. Bradshaw was beating Bradshaw, and Tracy Smothers was having none of it.
No.
And he wasn't, and he got Big Show to back off him too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it didn't matter if whoever it was, Tracy'd fight him. But yeah,
great. From what I understand, if he liked you, he was a fucking hell of a guy. Great guy. And two of my friends, Axel Lennox, say nothing but great things about Tracy backstage, though.
Typical, Southern type dude. If you're good to him, he's good to you. You show him attitude, he's going to show you the door. And he is one of our 2 FBI members. Him and Tommy Rich would both become the full-blooded Italians in ECW.
Oh, that FBI gimmick just totally reignited Tommy Rich. It made him fun.
The Big Don, Tommy Rich.
The Big Don. He was so good at it, too.
Tracy Smothers.
Oh God. Again, Tracy Smothers is a pinnacle for great tag team matches.
Yeah. This was one of the standard barriers to go into the 90s. Like, oh, yeah, this is what you got to live up to.
Yeah. And this is great shit. This is like the Revival versus American Alpha, but 1990s version.
Yeah.
I love the Stan Lane, Bobby Eaton incarnation of the Midnight Express. In my opinion, it's just as good as Bobby and Dennis.
Yeah,
a different case.
Yeah, Bobby and Dennis drew more money as a tag team in the different territories with Mid-South and Jim Crockett Promotions. Stan and Bobby were much smoother for a tag team that could really entertain people. So
it was a different pace. It was a more high energy Midnight Express as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And throw in on top of that, the year prior, they were baby faces teaming with the Road Warriors and Dr. Death in the War Games match. Fast forward a year, they're heels.
Because it depends who you ask. Because when they turned heel, when they went back to the heels, they were wrestling the dynamic dudes, and the angle was Cornette was mentoring the dudes, but managing the Midnight Express at the same time. And the Express is like one or the other. Make up your mind. And the Clash of Champions, where it happened, when Cornette cracked Johnny Ace in the back with the tennis racket, place lit right up. Yay!
Because we got back the Midnights we wanted. Screw the dudes, and they're heels again. So,
Well, they got cheered. They got cheered for beating Pillman and Z-Man. Right. I remember.
Yeah.
Wowie.
They dropped Pillman on the tennis racket on his throat, and the crowd was loving it.
The Phantom Angle, the one that never aired.
Yeah, but this match is proof that the little things in wrestling, like the little karate battles, can mean so much to the match. Like I said, that karate battle between Stan and Tracy, that was awesome.
JR would go crazy whenever Stan Lane broke the karate out.
Yes.
JR loved the martial arts background of Stan Lane.
He is so dangerous.
But
him, Smothers, and John Tatum had a martial arts background.
But
John Tatum, yes. Oh God.
John Tatum, Jack Victory.
Yep.
But in the end, Midnight Express beat the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys to retain the NWA United States Tag Team titles in 18 minutes, 14 seconds. Longest match of the show, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they were gonna do everything to upstage the main event matches.
Yep, and they did.
Yep. So now we move on to one of the other big things of the show, Z-Man Tom Zink versus the debuting Big Van Vader.
Now here's the thing: after this was a very highly publicized debut for Vader, but Vader, just like Doug Furnace, was still working in New Japan. So Vader would have this debut, and you'd see him do a couple of things on Saturday night in main event, and then he disappeared. He was very on and off until 92.
Yeah.
About 92-ish is when we started seeing more of Vader after that.
Plus, I think Leon had only been doing the Vader character for a couple of years at this point.
About I think 87 or 88 is
88?
What is out.
Because he was Bull Power, Leon White there in the AWA, and then went to Japan, got the gimmick, and that was like that was like 88. So,
fun fact: the gimmick was originally handed to one Jim Hellwig.
Yes, it was. Yes, the Ultimate Warrior was supposed to be Big Van Vader.
They wanted the Ultimate Warrior to be Vader.
Yep.
Wow.
And I saw it.
Right?
Yep, the prototype costume for it was supposed to be similar to what Vader has, but it was a full body suit, covered sleeves and all that. That's what they wanted and the mask. That's what they wanted the Warrior to have.
Yep. And but we know what Vader. I love Vader's entrance music too. Back then, that was so good.
And then the cool ass helmet in which after he takes it off he does like this samurai thing, and then steam coming out of the helmet. That was badass.
He only had that helmet for. I mean, in Japan he always had it.
Right.
But we only saw that helmet for about 2-3 years, and then he stopped wearing it.
Yeah, I think it just became too much of a hassle. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never found out how that thing worked. If it was a timing thing or someone did it off camera when the smoke would come out. Somebody hit a button, it was remote controlled or what? I never found out.
I do talk to Leon's son on Facebook, believe it or not. He runs Vader's page and he's very responsive with people. I'll ask him. I'm pretty, or I can just ask Kenny. Kenny wrote Vader's biography, so
that's true. Yeah.
So this match was just a squash to get Vader to look strong for the future, because look at a couple years later, he'd become one of the main event players of the company.
And I think Z-Man, Tom Zink, pissed off Ole, which is what made him the perennial first victim of Vader. For this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But in the end, Big Van Vader defeated Z-Man Tom Zink in 2 minutes, 16 seconds.
We talked about the match longer than it actually happened.
Yep. Vader would be very honest. This wasn't a very consistent run in WCW. Vader would come and go. The next time, after we saw Vader a few times in 1990, but then we saw him with Stan Hansen at Wrestle War, and then he disappeared till like Halloween Havoc 91. He was in the Chamber of Horrors match.
Yes.
Yep.
That match. That match.
Triggered.
Anyways. Moving on to the next match, we get another tag team match. We get the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael H. Jimmy Garvin versus the Steiner Brothers.
Anytime. Music here too. This was after they couldn't use "Welcome to the Jungle" anymore.
Right.
So they just threw another generic theme, but I liked it. It had that cool drum intro in it.
Yeah. Freebirds going glam this show. They got the makeup on.
Yeah.
No Missy Hyatt, though.
Oh, my God, the reactions they were getting from the crowd. Words we cannot repeat here on this podcast.
Yeah, screw it, we can. Let's do it. Chan, Michael's a bitch. Michael is a bitch.
I was referring to that chant.
Oh. Well, what was you referring to?
This is a weird era for the Freebirds. I don't know what they were aiming for. I think they were going for some sort of David Bowie glam rock type look.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Weird to see Jimmy Garvin without a beard, too.
Yes. This is after the story I told you about where Garvin was on vitamins and was being a knucklehead about stuff. He's lightened up at this point because you can tell he's not as jacked as he had been the previous year.
No.
The gut's coming back there, so yeah.
Yeah, he's chubby Jimmy Garvin again.
Chubby Jimmy Garvin, I like that.
Yeah.
It's funny to see Garvin get inducted. He looks like your high school chemistry teacher.
It looks like somebody's uncle.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match, it was good. Nothing spectacular. Okay. It was fun for what it was.
both teams weren't really involved in anything at this point, so they just had to throw them in there.
Yeah, they already had
just
their
to
run.
do something. Yeah,
Was
Steiner's
done.
just lost tag belts. The Freebirds just lost, I think, U.S. champions at one point. So
Yep.
maybe, I don't know.
Well, no, not any time at this point.
No, Freebirds just got done with a feud with Rock and Roll Express. They had the Capital Punishment match.
Right.
Strap at Capital Combat. That was another good match.
Yeah.
So it's like they had nothing for either team, so they just threw these guys together, give them something.
All right, yeah, we know these guys can work together. Go out there and do it. So.
Yep.
And in the end,
decent match. You think they would have finished with the Frankensteiner because that was Scott's thing back then. It was over huge.
Finishes over the head, belly to belly suplex.
Yep.
But in the end, Steiner Brothers beat the Fabulous Freebirds in 13 minutes 45 seconds. And now,
Fair match.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine.
Next up, 6-man tag team match. You have 3 of the 4 horsemen: Arn Anderson, Barry Windham, and Sid Vicious. Talk
Big
about a
Pop
changeover.
again.
Yep.
Yeah, Sid, I keep noticing a lot of these old shows that I see Sid on, he always gets a big pop. It's really interesting. And think about it.
Sid chant.
Yeah, and we won Sid chance just like the year before. I was going to mention, talk about a changeover from the year before where he was in that Battle Royal teaming with Dan Spivey, and now he's in a main event role as one of the horsemen now. So it's Arn, Barry, and Sid versus the dudes with attitude, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Junkyard Dog, and the debut of El Gigante.
Who got a big pop, too.
Yes, he did.
Which is interesting because you fast forward 2.5 years later. Oh, God.
He's a gigantic.
Here's the thing. El Gigante's very short run in WCW. I think it was about a year and a half. He was over. He was very popular.
The purpose of this match is to get him over. Because every time Arn or Barry come up against him, it's the big take, the big wide-eyed look, and
like we don't want anything to do with this guy.
No. So
El Gigante, before the whole Giant Gonzalez thing, was actually very popular. He was one of the more popular guys in the company. They put pretty hard.
But he had the limitation; he didn't speak English.
Yep.
Just spoke Spanish. Gary Michael Capetta would be his translator several times. So, and he came from basketball. So, trying to transition from basketball to wrestling, not the easiest thing to do. And being 7'7", legit, not an easy transition for a guy that size to be able to do. And it just was what it was. So,
and my God, the horrible shape Junkyard Dog was in. Holy cow!
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was. Wow.
There's two more.
This guy was one of the biggest stars in the early '80s.
Oh yeah, biggest star in Mid-South territory in '83, '84. Comes to work with Vince, and what magnanimous or magnificent, should I say, angle did Junkyard Dog have in the WWF? I mean,
no, Orndorff did all the work in this match.
Yeah, he did.
Yep, he's the workhorse in this match too. You can also see the right arm is atrophying on Paul Orndorff too, and like Levi was saying earlier with the Iron Sheik, you got 2 more kind of WWF guys here, JYD and Paul Orndorff. So even Wyndham in some capacity.
Yeah.
Orndorff's run in the company at this time was very short-lived. He debuted a month before this pay-per-view, and he was gone by the end of the summer. He was Herb Abrams called, and he went to go work for him.
Aren't we close to the Herb Abrams UWF time frame here?
Yeah, that's what I said. Orndorff showed up in WCW in June, and he was gone by August because he went to go work for Herb Abrams.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in the end, the dudes with attitude beat the 4 horsemen by disqualification from Sid throwing JYD over the top rope.
Right. They still were trying to use that NWA rule of you can't throw a guy over the top rope. So
Solely is the only one on this show saying NWA now.
Yep, that's true.
And the match was 8 minutes 53 seconds. So there you go.
They needed something. It was part of the big horsemen versus dudes with attitudes angle.
Feud. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see them again in a little bit.
Mind you, the dudes with dudes with attitudes that continued after this were none of those three guys.
No.
Pillman, Luger, and Steiners.
Yep.
After that, we get our second of 4 championship matches for the NWA United States Championship. Champion Lex Luger versus challenger Mean Mark Callis with Paulie Dangerously as manager.
Whatever happened, mind you, this is Mean Mark Callis' final pay-per-view, and we never saw him ever again.
Nope.
Yes.
Where'd he go?
Never saw him again.
Fun fact about this show is that the day after this show was when he was supposed to meet with Vince for the first time. Because Paulie had called Bruce Pritchard.
The company a little longer.
Paulie had called Bruce Pritchard and said, "We got a guy here. His contract's coming up. Is there any interest?" And Bruce was like, "Yes, there's interest." So Bruce is, and because at this point, the Undertaker idea has already been birthed in the WWF, and they just need the guy to fill the role. And Bruce goes to Vince, "Hey, there's this guy down in WCW. Contract's coming up. We got this idea. This guy's perfect for it." Well, this match happens. Mark has a bad hip. It's not the best match. And the next day, Vince sees the tape. He doesn't want to talk to Mark. And it got squashed. So thankfully, they worked out another arrangement for Mark and Vince to meet. Vince meets him, falls in love with him, signs him, and the rest is history.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's
awful match. You can spot out the flaws, and you can tell something's not right with Mark. He's not moving well.
Mm-mm.
He didn't even do the rope walk. That was his big thing. Was the rope?
He did
walk.
do the rope walk. He did do the rope walk.
We did. And I must have missed it.
He does it,
Right,
but he used
it.
to do like a big, huge. Remember, he used to hit the ropes and do like a big jumping elbow. He does not do that in this match.
Does not do that. Yep.
So,
But yeah, it's also. But yeah, it's also interesting seeing Mark Calloway with Paul Heyman as his manager at this time.
Weird, isn't it?
It's so
Yeah,
strange,
it's weird.
considering you fast forward 12 years later in the Undertaker-Brock Lesnar feud, and Paul Heyman doing what he was doing on camera, and yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Didn't even just say it. You know what I'm doing?
Later, dude. I think it was like 23 or 24 years later.
Yeah, I was referred to the 2002 feud whenever.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. My apologies.
Yeah,
I was going streak breaking.
Yeah, you were going 12 years after my 12 years.
The retirement match.
Yep, I'm going way past that.
Paul Heyman was there for the end of Mark Callis, and he was there for the end of the Undertaker.
Yep.
Well, the streak, but not the end
streak.
of
You know what I mean?
So yeah. But anyway.
But in the end, Lex Luger defeated Mean Mark Callis in 12 minutes, 10 seconds to retain the title.
Didn't you win with a clothesline? Wasn't it like that simple?
Yeah. Fine. Dude, Mark Callis jobbed out to the Junkyard Dog in 30 seconds. It's on Saturday night. It's somewhere on Daily Motion. I saw it the other day.
Wow.
Yep. Mean Mark definitely earned his stripes in WCW. He swallowed his pride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now to the penultimate match of the night for the NWA World Tag Team Championships. Champions Doom, Butch Reed, and Ron Simmons with Teddy Long versus the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson. I feel like Doom is one of the most underrated tag teams in the history of the business because Butch Reed and Ron Simmons in this match, they worked so well together with Morton and Gibson.
They were considered the most dominant tag team at that time. They were so over. And that was the thing. They were meant to be heels, but they always got a pop when that badass Street Tough music hit with the saxophone. People, the crowd was losing. Ron Simmons kept it as his theme.
Yes, he did. Yes. Yeah, because initially it was Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. They were singles wrestlers. They took them off TV. Woman comes to be in WCW. What was her name? Not Rebecca Green. What was her?
Nancy Green.
Was it Nancy Green?
Nancy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Nancy Green.
She was Rick Steiner's girlfriend. Rick Steiner's girlfriend gimmick, and then she splits away from the Steiners, becomes Woman, forms her tag team of Doom, which is Ron and Butch, of course, under mask.
I think it was Robin Green.
Robin Green. That was it.
Oh.
Robin Green. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it was Nancy Green. But
yeah,
so
because Bob Seger's her strut. And
it was like one of the worst mask gimmicks in the history because
so
everyone
obvious.
knew who they were. It was so obvious, you know. Sorry to say, but it was very.
And thank
obvious
God they ditched them shortly after.
Yeah, they did a match. They did a match versus hair match. Oh no, they did a match where if Doom lost, they had to unmask, and it was and then Woman ditched him, and Teddy Long came on board before.
Yeah,
they won the titles in like 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Oh, funny story. If I can tell this one. This is around the time me and a buddy of mine went to see the NWA at a house show. It was at the same venue that they did the Clash of Champions 9 New York Knockout, the RPI Fieldhouse. But this is after that run, and it's also in the middle of winter, so it's way after this pay-per-view. Didn't have a good draw, and only like half the roster showed up. And so all the guys are working multiple matches. The Steiners both worked singles matches. They had a tag match against Doom, and they had a battle royal, which I think Rick Steiner won. Very, very limited. So the tag match that night is Steiners against Doom. And me and my buddy, my friend Lee, we're sitting 4th row on the floor. His dad is to my left. And we're saying all the stupid Mark shit you can imagine. You know, we're just being ridiculous. We're telling Dutch Mantell, shave your back, and all that kind of stupid stuff. So we're kind of getting over with the people around us. You know, we throw a stupid line out, and a bunch of people around us start laughing, like, oh, that's pretty funny. Well, this one kid is probably like 17 years old, takes a liking to us, and he comes over to where we are. And we shake hands, and I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, all this stuff. He's like, pretty good-sized dude. He was pretty well in shape. And he starts going off like he was supposed to have a tryout match that night before the show, but it didn't happen. And me and Lee are looking at each other like, huh, okay, yeah, whatever, dude. So we're just being our goofy selves. In the ring is Doom versus the Steiner Brothers, to which this guy, who we don't know, all of a sudden starts yelling a certain word at Doom.
Oh, God.
Yeah. To which Ron
Slowly
Simmons
crept away.
stops and looks at this guy. And if looks could kill. And Bruce and Butch Reed looks at this guy. And if looks can kill. And me and Lee instantly distance ourselves from this guy. Like, we do not want to be associated with this gentleman now, because people in the audience are hearing what this guy is saying and they want to kill him. So thankfully he was like trying to be buddy to us after that. We're like, okay, thank you very much. So we just carried on like that. So yeah, that was close to us being killed by Doom because of this jacket.
My God, that would be the worst thing that could possibly happen.
That is insane.
So, getting on those two's bad side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Ron Simmons and Butch Reed were jacked at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
why anyone would think that was a good thing to say at all, especially against those two guys, is way beyond me. This guy was not. This dude was like not all there. When he's claiming he's got a tryout match before the show, yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Dumbass.
But yeah, this match, another great match on the show. It seemed like they meshed well together, Doom and Rock and Roll. They really worked this match fairly well, and the finish, interesting, with the interference from Teddy Long after he gets knocked down by Gibson, and I believe, was it Butch? It was Butch. Butch who did the jumping forearm off the top rope. And then 1, 2, 3, as Simmons is holding back Morton.
Yep.
Doom retains the tag team titles by beating Rock and Roll Express in 15 minutes, 40 seconds.
I mean, Ron Simmons was probably about 3 or 4 years into his career at that point. But you also had Ricky and Robert, and you had Butch Reed, all of which were seasoned vets at this point.
Yep.
Rock and Roll Express was considered washed up back then. Even back then, but God, no, absolutely not. They were still going, and they still go.
Yeah, to this day.
To this day,
which is crazy to think.
My favorite.
And they were in their mid-30s, I think, at this point.
This is only 7 years after they were kind of formed, and they were probably 20 at that point. So they're probably not even. They're close to it.
Probably
in their
late 20s,
early
early 30s, yeah.
Yeah, maybe right around there. But my favorite.
Robert Gibson was around a bit longer than Ricky. Remember, Ricky grew up in the business, so
right, because Ricky Gibson, the older brother, was initially in the business. That got Robert Gibson in the business, and then Lawler or Jarrett or Jimmy Hart, whoever you want to ask, put Ricky Morton and Robert together as the Rock and Roll Express. But my favorite call from Jim Ross on commentary is about Teddy Long. He says, his mouth is so big he can whisper in his own ear. Love love that.
Oh, God. But now it's time for the thing most people remember this show for. The main event of the evening. For the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Big gold belt, mind you. Ric Flair defending against Sting with Ole Anderson in Flair's corner while on the ramp with El Gigante handcuffed. And Sting had JYD, Luger, Orndorff, and the Steiners around ringside to keep Flair from being chicken shit.
Right, the
completely evened out. Well, it was to prevent the Horsemen from interfering. Completely evened, leveled playing field.
Mm-hmm.
There must be a winner.
And I must comment, I love Sting's jacket on this show, the red, white, and blue jacket.
Yep.
Yeah, and I remembered the first time I saw the jacket was actually on Sting's TNA DVD where he did the documentary interview, The Return of an Icon, where he showed off some jackets he's kept over the years, and he keeps that one because it was a special time for him, and for good reason. In this match, if there was a match that could have rivaled Midnight and Southern Boys, this was the match. This was an awesome match. I remembered I brought up in the Horseman podcast, last episode we did where we did a wrestling-themed episode. I brought up that one of my favorite matches with Sting would have been this or the Clash match from '88. Now, as far as if you were to ask me which one was better, I would say the Clash match because that was the birth of the Sting we know today.
Right. From
that moment until he retired 4 years ago.
Like this match, Sting and Flair. That's the thing. No matter what, you're going to get a good match out of the two of them.
Even their final match on Nitro in the last Nitro was a really good match.
And that was only like 10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
But I like this match, but I do prefer. This is a good one, but I prefer the Clash of Champions match, and I also prefer the Starrcade '89 match, which from the finals of the Iron Man tournament. I think that was a little bit better too. There's a ton of great Sting and Ric Flair matches. There's volumes of even the one for where they unified the international title on the Clash of Champions when Sensational Sherry came out, was going to decide whose corner she was in. And believe it or not, there's also a really good Sting Ric Flair match from '93 on WCW Saturday Night. They went 35 minutes.
These guys can't have a bad match. It's simple.
Yeah, they can.
This is a good match, but it's a good match in a volume of Sting matches that range from good to great.
It was more about the culmination of the angle and the storyline to really put Sting over and just make him look unstoppable. Every chop, no sell, every press slam. It's like pretty much everything Flair is doing is not working in this match.
Sting is chops and throwing him to the rail.
Right. And another aspect that we didn't really touch upon is all throughout the evening, Gordon Soley is interviewing certain wrestlers. And after they put over their own match, they all make a comment about the main event. That's another technique to put emphasis on it, to make it bigger than it is. When you have not just you have the wrestlers talking about it and the fans talking about it, that makes the perception that it's bigger than anything else. So,
yeah. Yeah, and
himself in line to face the winner in his interview. That's what he did.
Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Didn't happen, but whatever.
No.
But yeah, and I like how at one point towards the end, Ole's trying to get to the ring. El Gigante's holding him back. The Horsemen come out. Big kerfuffle with JYD, Luger, Orndorff, and the Steiners battling against the Horsemen, while Sting had the Scorpion on. And also, Sting giving Flair the figure 4 in this match. That was pretty cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I like the finish to this match, even though in hindsight it might seem a bit fluky, but whatever. Flair going for the figure 4, Sting with the schoolboy roll-up. 1, 2, 3, and the crowd went nuts.
That's how Dusty beat Flair. That's how Steamboat beat Savage. That's how, always with that roll-up, that inside roll-up.
Flair.
What's that?
That's how Steamboat beat Flair, too.
Yeah, that's how Steamboat beat Flair, too. So, true time-tested finish there. Oh, because it's another out-of-nowhere finish, And it was Sting's time. They all knew it. Sting gets the pyro, and he gets his face, emblem coming down there and lights up and everything. So,
It's used like several times. Or actually, they had the emblem up for Starrcade when he went against the Black Scorpion.
Oh,
Jesus.
Let's make good use of it. I paid good money for that, Jim Herd.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I thought it was on fire for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. But yes, Sting beat Flair in 16 minutes, 6 seconds to conclude all this craziness. And, door opened. Not the best timing, but anyways. So that concludes Bash 1990. Overall, if you had cut the first 4 matches off, this would have been a great show.
Well, that's what they did on the Turner Broadcasting
the
home video version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but since you have the whole thing on the network, the first 4 matches kind of take the show down a little bit. So it wasn't anywhere near as good as 89, but still a decent show overall.
Better they got the following year, too.
Yeah, way better than the Bash 91.
As we'll say, as they say at the end of the Conan movies, but that is another story.
That is another story.
But, so now time for best match and worst match. I think we can all agree that best match goes to Midnight Express versus the Southern Boys for the United States Tag Team titles.
Yes.
By a hair.
By a hair over Sting and Flair.
Yeah, it's very close, but
very close.
Mm-hmm.
Worst match, I'd give it to Furnace and Mantell.
I mean, I'm not even counting the first 4, honestly, because none of them are anything.
They're okay. I mean, like Rotunda and Cheek was okay. Pillman and Landel was okay.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be Doug and Dutch or Harley and Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah,
just
hard to say. I mean, if you include those, then I'd probably say like Harley Race and Tommy Rich. Honestly,
sad to say too. I mean, it's a sign of the times.
If you don't include those, I mean, of the other 8 matches,
I would say probably the 6-man tag.
Yeah.
Well, it's got a shitty finish, but it's not a bad match.
Maybe Vader and Z-Man.
Well, I don't know if I would count squash matches that are under 3 minutes. If it was more than 3 minutes,
Freebird Steiner's is kind of just there, and even Mark and Lex is like not the best match either.
Yeah.
So,
but when you get to those matches, when you get Southern Boys on, it either ranges from okay to amazing. So
yeah, it's really crazy. But we can just cop out and say, one of those any one of the opening 4 matches, I guess, or a tie for bad match, Dutch and Doug against or Harley and Tommy. Those 2 specifically. So it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
decent to good show. Would have been great if those first 4 matches were cut. And it's still one of the most talked about bashes of all time, particularly because of the main event, but could have been remembered a whole lot more if those first 4 matches were cut from the card.
Right.
Well, it was a launching point. As the show was titled, The Revolution, this was the beginning of Sting's time as the champion.
Now, I do want to bring up, in hindsight now with Sting, as great as he is, not the best world champion. Good world champion, but much better chaser of the championship.
Right.
I think it's safe to say. Yeah. Because I can't remember a real memorable world title reign for Sting where he had constantly great matches. Like, there's not really a reign for him that really stands out for me.
It's kind of like it's the different mentalities of the different territories. The Northeast WWF territory was a babyface territory. So you had the champion was a babyface and had long runs. Bruno, Hogan, guys like
Savage.
That. Warrior, Savage. They'd have those long runs. Jim Crockett Promotions, the South, was typically more heels were champions, and it was the babyface chasing them. Yeah. Dusty Rhodes, obvious example. Dusty was world champion 3 times, did not have very long extended title reigns. Sting, same thing. Sting beats Flair. Okay, and you, as Levi mentioned at the very beginning here, this is like one of the highest buy rates of any pay-per-view this year. If it's the highest.
The highest of 1990, yeah.
And why? Because everyone wanted to see Sting beat Flair. You got it. What do you do after that? And
what they did after that, we touched on. So
right, the Black Scorpion. So it's like
they dropped the ball with his first run.
They didn't have that next heel ready to go to challenge Sting. So they had to go back to what worked, and that was Flair.
Yeah. So, when in reality, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say this. If Sting did not get hurt back in February and they had the match at Wrestle War and Sting won the title, I think this would have been the event where Flair got the belt back.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But I was going to say logic would have dictated, even though over the course of the careers of these two, I don't remember these two having a one-on-one match, but like Sting and Luger, had Luger stay heel, they could have done Sting and Luger for a while if Sting was champion.
They could have.
They could have done that, and that's probably what they should have done it.
Why didn't they revert back to that? Because Sting was back, he was healthy. Luger can, have.
I would say probably
being heel.
Probably, I would go with what Walt was saying earlier, because Luger was on such a huge heel run at the time that if Sting had got the title from Flair, that would logically have been the next feud after it. Because Luger would have had that heat that people wanted to see him get beat. Sting would have been the almighty champion. So it would have been tailor-made, but of course, changes, things happen and they didn't have it done. So that's why in pro wrestling, you have to have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, just on and on and on and on and on. They didn't have that. When Sting blew his knee, they were screwed.
Yeah.
Retain any Terry Funk was gone by this point. Steamboat was gone by this point. They didn't make any extra effort and sign and bring in any new major players.
Yeah.
They weren't really trying to bring talent. It was a song and dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So what could have been, like always, hindsight 2020.
But now that we finished the review, we'll take questions for anybody who's watching. You can send questions in the chat. If not, we'll stop the stream in about 10 minutes. Because I know how this portion can get, even on my channel, where I'll ask for people to send questions and I don't get any. So 10 minutes after, I just, But
in the meantime, next week's show is we will be reviewing In Your House Canadian Stampede.
Yeah, interesting on 4th of July weekend. Kind of strange, but that's going to be fun because, and it's great. Those old In Your Houses up until, I believe it was Ground Zero when they started going 3 hours. They were only 2-hour shows, so they were easy watches.
Yeah,
didn't feel like it took an eternity, and some of those In Your Houses are some of my favorite pay-per-views to watch back just for the fun and nostalgia. Like Buried Alive being one of my favorites. This being the favorite. Mind Games, a slight one as well. Yeah, it's like not all In Your Houses were good. In fact, the first few were pretty bad, but.
Yeah.
After 95, when they started to perfect the formula of it and get it down pat, that's when you started to get some good shows.
Yeah, they were testing the waters with it at the beginning because they needed more revenue coming in.
They needed to go monthly since WCW was going monthly.
Right. Yep. So that's on deck for next week. And remember, you can please subscribe to our channel if you haven't out there. Please do that. And please make sure you check out some of our previous episodes. More views we get, the better it is for us. So please make sure you do that. Hit the notification bell, comment away, give us those likes. We need those likes, man. So please hook us up with
that. So next week when we come back here live, we'll go back to being on Saturday night because I had a slight. The reason why we had to wait until today to do it was because I thought I was going to have a problem with the computer, because I guess Windows 10 have this problem at least once, is when it says PC did not start correctly and constantly doing repairs and stuff. I had to do a system restore to an update I had on Thursday, So I was luckily able to get back up and running, and now I got everything that I didn't have, well, most of what I didn't have from Friday back on the computer, like editing software and stuff. Luckily, personal files still on here, so I didn't have to worry about the tabletop simulator footage we recorded on Friday. Good Lord, that was so much fun. I look forward to doing that again soon. Because eventually on this channel, game nights are coming back, like Minecraft. We're going to come back with Minecraft content again. Yes. We're going to do tabletop simulator. We're going to do... Eventually, I want to do this next Sunday, Uno the Movie live, where Scott, myself, either Riley, Jake, or Dylan, or Kamikaze, as some people know, and maybe even Carson, come on, we play a long-ass game of Uno, up to 500 with all the crazy rules. Holy hell. It'd be a good way to celebrate 4th of July in our sense by just screwing each other over on Uno. But that might be next week. So
yep. So next week we are scheduled for the In Your House Stampede. Also coming in the month of July, we are going to be looking at, in no particular order here, we're looking at Bash to the Beach 1996. We'll be venturing to our first ECW pay-per-view with Heatwave 2000. And also, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be taking a look at reimagining The Invasion of WCW. I've already been
I need to work on that at some point.
I've already been working on it, but working on it this past week. So we're gonna have some fun stuff with there. We got SummerSlams coming at you in August. All kinds of fun stuff. September, October, November, December into 2021. So all kinds of great stuff. Actually, remember, subscribe. Please give it that subscribe there. We like that.
Yeah. And already, this channel has only been around for just a couple of months and already up to about 40 subscribers. So we're gradually climbing along.
It's a good start.
Yeah, hopefully with more people's help, we can definitely, hopefully by the end of summer, we can get to 100 subscribers. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing. So, but yeah, people in watching the stream, leave us some questions if you want. Otherwise, we will be going off in 5 minutes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes remain.
5-minute warning to get questions in if you want us to keep going.
How many people we got viewing right now? Who's watching?
Two
people.
Come on, ask a question.
Yeah.
I'm going to check the smoker while we're waiting for a question. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think my dinner's done because right as we were ending the review, my mother came in and she saw I was talking and then she walked out. She was like, oh,
whoops.
I didn't mean to interrupt your show.
Yeah, my wife's got the deal. It's like doors closed, don't come in. I'm recording. So
yeah, I probably should. Well, my dad would probably think I'm stupid because he does not understand what I do. My mom kind of gets it. She don't watch my videos. Thank God for that.
That's good. My mom actually does watch my videos.
Oh, that's awkward.
Well, I really don't do anything weird on my videos. So
I know, but cool. Still, just the fact that a family member would watch your videos.
Oh, dude, my wife, my sister, my niece, my mother. I got a lot of people in the family.
I mean, I know my oldest brother, Rue, when he was around, he actually had his own YouTube channel for a short time. He did mostly football stuff because he was a big football freak. Some wrestling, but after a while he got turned off of doing wrestling videos because of some people he'd see on Facebook whining about CM Punk and all this shit.
My mom's a fan of me doing reactions to mashups. So in the last mashup I did, I put a blip that said, "Hi, Mom." You saw it, so that's pretty cool. Yes, 44 years old, my mom still watches my stuff.
That's funny. That is funny. But, so yeah, we were talking prior to the show as far as like what's coming on my channel. Since I got the new computer, I need to get a PS2 HDMI link cable so I can use this bad boy, the Elgato Game Capture HD60S, to record PS2 footage. Because I might start doing NASCAR series again, might do wrestling series. I've been dying to want to do Crush Hour season mode and Here Comes the Pain season mode. So much. I've been wanting to do those for so long. Live, and they'd be, I might go back and forth, like 2 separate series for each game, 1 live, 1 recorded with editing and stuff like that, because I like to put background music on some of that stuff to add a little layer to it. But regardless, that's coming down the pike soon. Hopefully in a couple weeks I can purchase that cable and it will be here and test it out. The one thing I'm hoping, because I have a component to HDMI converter, but when I try to use it on this for PS2, for some odd reason, the footage was high-pitched, fast, weird, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, now I know why. The converter was bad, so I need to get a link cable for it to work. So, but it's all
going back to our review. I think it would be best if we mentioned that WWE is bringing back the Great American Bash this month on NXT
to compete against AEW.
Card's looking pretty solid so far.
I actually haven't seen what's been on the card yet. Then again, like I've said so many times, I have not watched a full episode of Raw, SmackDown, AEW, NXT since this crap happened. Yeah. I'm just waiting until they can get a bunch of fans back, and then I'll come back to it. But
Vince is trying to aim for, but I mean, we got positive COVID tests popping up left and right down at the Performance Center.
But luckily, they're trying to get that contained, so that way it doesn't go crazy. So,
well, it's not really Vince's fault. From what I'm gathering, is like some of the talent's been going out and partying and going to the beach and all that. So, I mean, Florida's looking like New York did a few months ago, and New York's starting to look a lot better. And what did we do? We stayed home.
Yeah. So sounds like WWE, what they need to do is move out of Florida for a while.
That's what I was saying. I don't see how they can't quarantine the talent for 14 days, and during that 14 days, get like a setup, get one of the warehouses up there in Stamford, and get a makeshift studio,
and do like best of episodes of Raw and SmackDown until the 2-week period is done, and then come back.
That's what they were doing at the beginning of this whole thing. They would show the Royal Rumble on network television, which would take an hour and a half because of commercial breaks.
That's what they should be doing, at least for a couple of weeks.
Or even just move the talent up to Stamford, quarantine for 14 days, make a like I said, a makeshift studio like what the NWA had, and just move them up there.
They could record 2 weeks worth of material down in Florida, and like you said, in that time frame, the 14 days, move everything to Connecticut, wherever. Fine, and do that. They have the facility. They have the capability.
They do. They do.
Now, granted, it's mostly because a lot of the talent lives in Florida, and traveling right now is questionable as it is. So that would probably be a huge risk for them. But you know what, Vince? Buy another fucking plane.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, hopefully soon enough, we can get wrestling back on its feet, and we can enjoy it properly again.
And what I heard is AEW is doing testing, and they've been doing testing. So kudos to them.
And plus, they're like an outdoor venue, and they're social distancing the people and all that stuff. And good on Moxley for coming right out and saying, "I've been exposed. I can't come back." So
for a little bit, yeah,
because obviously he doesn't have the pressure from Tony Khan that the roster's getting from Vince or Kevin Dunn or wherever else. So
But anyways, I think that's a good way to end this episode off. So we went on for almost an hour and a half, so longest episode by far. And I think this stream went very well. Yeah, I probably will have to lower the bitrate down on OBS because I had a 10,000. We had 595 dropped frames, which is actually pretty decent. It was only 0.2%, so that's really good. So perhaps next week, lower the bit rates, and we won't have any more drop frame issues. But overall, I feel this was a successful first attempt, so we will definitely be back and going live from this point on. So it's going to be a lot more fun, and hopefully by next week we'll have some fucking questions. Because I like to talk to you people.
Yes,
but
people's. Plug stuff. Plug stuff.
Oh yes,
real quick.
plug stuff. Yep.
Real quick plug.
All right. So for me, damn it. hate when after I do a long stream, my voice gets a little weird. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, ThrashManiac99. Keep building my road to the next milestone of 4,000 subscribers, which that's going to take a long time, but we'll see. You can subscribe to me there. You can follow me on Twitter, even though it's pretty much dead because I haven't posted anything crazy. All it mostly has been is me liking YouTube videos and little posts here and there, but you can follow me on Twitter at ThrashManiac99. You can follow me on Twitch at ThrashManiac99. And that's all. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel now. Scott?
After you subscribe to this channel and you subscribe to Levi's channel, you can go to Mr. Scott Reacts and subscribe to my channel, where I do reaction videos to all kinds of cool stuff. Both these gentlemen have given me recommendations, and my reactions to those songs will be coming up in this coming week, so please make sure you check those out. And also you can find me on Twitter and Instagram under Mr. Scott Reacts as well. Walter.
You can find me on Twitter at YourWaltBall, and you can find me on Instagram at smokin_Walt_ball, and you can find me on Facebook under my name.
There you go.
Yep.
And you can find Walter and I on the Necrocasticon podcast, which comes out every Monday on the Project Entertainment Network, where we talk horror and heavy metal. So.
Yep. And I think a good note to end on, one more time for old time's sake. I had a jackass. I love that jackass. And then one day, that jackass broke his leg, and then I had to shoot that jackass. And that's what I'm gonna do to you, Mick Foley. I'm gonna kill you.
And since he did my shtick, I'm gonna do his.
I see trees of blue, clouds of white. I see the moon
For me,
I think to myself,
what a wonderful world. Anyways, horns high, and we'll see you next week.